Hi everyone and welcome back to Brian's Horror Corner, or welcome if you are new to my channel. So we're kicking off the third and final month of this part one of my overall 1980s horror series. A couple changes, couple things to bring up before we get into the first horror movie from 1980 for the third month here. Not the first for the series, obviously, but obviously, as you can see, I have a different background. All I did was turn my computer. I figured it would. Going forward, I'm going to try to use the background being all of my horror movies that you can see there, and then a few on this side too, but mostly behind me, and my box sets on top. I just thought that would be more appropriate for this channel, so I figured I'd kick off July and start doing it here since it's July 1st, the second half of 2024, which is hard to believe. But the only problem it presents is you can see the lighting is shining off my bald head, but at least it's not. I hope it's not reflecting back into the camera where it's blinding you guys, because I have quite a magnifying glass here with my baldness. So anyway, with that being said, I don't think it'll be too much of a problem. But the other thing is, this month I do have a vacation coming up, so I'm going to be gone for a full week. I believe it's from July 14th through the 19th. So basically from July 14th through like July 20th or so, I'm not going to have a video up because I'm going out into the great outdoors, and I'll be in a spot where I'm not going to be able to watch horror movies or be able to put up reviews for them. So I'm going to try to get 6 or 7 up on my channel before July 14th, and then we'll close out the month after July 20th with another 5 or 6 or however many 1980 horror movies I have left for this part one of this overall 1980s horror series. So those are the two things I wanted to bring up. Change the background, for the same room, but just moving my computer. And then there will be a week in the middle of July here where you're not going to see any new videos come up on my channel. So we'll maneuver around that. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the crux of this video, which is the 1980 horror movie that I'm going to talk about here. Again, a first time watch for me, just like most of these horror movies were, or are. And this movie from 1980 is from my Vinegar Syndrome collection on Blu-ray, and that movie is, it's hard to see with this case I have, but it's called The Children from 1980. And this is a nice addition because I do have reversible artwork, but I really don't like, and you're not going to probably be, oh, well, here. I really don't like the artwork on this side. It looks a little more cheesy, a little bit more childish, even though it would show better in the lighting and on camera. I really don't want to switch it out if I can help it. So for now, I'm going to stick with this one, which I know has a lot of black, and it makes it hard with the lighting here. But The Children from 1980 got a lot of nice special features on the back here. I don't know how well you guys can see that, but we got audio commentaries, documentaries, all the nice stuff to go along with the movie. So as far as the movie itself goes, The Children from 1980, let's just go ahead and get into it here. The Children, also known as Children of Ravensback, is a 1980 American horror film directed by Max Kalmanowitz, and it stars Martin Shakar, Gil Rogers, and Gail Garnett. It follows a group of 5 children in a small New England town when they are transformed into zombies who, after being exposed to waste from a nuclear plant, microwave any living thing they touch. The film received generally negative reviews from critics. So basically it opens, we're introduced to Jim and Slim, 2 workers at a chemical plant in the New England town of Ravensback, who decide to call it a day and head for the bar. Unfortunately, a large buildup of pressure leaks from one of the pipes that starts to form a yellow toxic cloud that drifts across the ground. Meanwhile, a school bus is taking children home. After dropping one child off, 5 children are left on the bus. After Billy Hart, the local sheriff, finds the idling bus abandoned near a cemetery, he radios his deputy and dispatcher. Billy orders a roadblock at the intersection of the main highway and the lone road leading into town, recruiting a couple of armed locals believing that the children were possibly kidnapped. So yeah, that's the setup and the premise for 1980s The Children. As far as the cast goes, we have Martin Shakir as John Fremont, Gil Rogers as Sheriff Billy Hart, Gail Garnett as Kathy Fremont, and Shannon Bolin as Molly. So yeah, that's the setup, the premise, and the cast for the 1980 horror film The Children. Um, this movie's pretty cheesy. It's a very early '80s cheesy kind of horror movie, and I'm all about it, man. I'm all about those type of movies. So let's just go ahead and get into my thoughts on this one, starting with the pros. I really like the small town community, the small town setting where the horror takes place here. One of those towns where everybody sort of knows everybody else, and you basically have one store that's run by the character of Molly, which sells everything from liquor to shotgun shells to groceries. You have the one sheriff, the one deputy. I just like those small town settings, man. It's sort of isolated. The horror is isolated from the rest of the world, so the rest of the world doesn't know the horror that's going on in these small town communities. And that really works for me in this movie. I think they do a really good job with that small town setting here. So that's the first thing that sticks out in a positive way for me. Well, the kills are pretty much similar or the same in terms of microwaving people that touch these children. It worked for me because of the effects of the burning as well as the aftermath. The practical burn and gore effects on the people I thought were pretty effective for this type of movie. Now, I'm not going to say they're the best gore effects I've ever seen from a practical standpoint. Some people I know have come out and said they don't look good at all, they don't like them. I don't know. I thought they looked pretty good, especially the aftermath that we see of the people that have been microwaved to death, as well as when they're actually like hugging them, which is typically how this takes place, or if they're just touching their hand or something. And you see sort of the smoke rise and the screams and everything. I thought that was pretty effective, quite frankly, especially for a kind of a cheesy 80s movie. It worked well enough for me. So that was good. The movie has a really nice atmosphere throughout with they use a lot of nighttime shots in the dark and scenes where they underlit, the children are underlit basically to where, like at a campfire, it makes them look creepier when they show them, like they have that under their eyes sort of dark look. All of that works pretty effective and makes for a fun watch, in my opinion. Especially in the second half of the movie where things really ratchet up and everything. So yeah, I thought that was shot nicely with the nighttime scenes and underlighting the children in order to make it look more effective. Also, you can't talk about this movie without talking about the score and the musical cues that are used, as well as it really adds to the atmosphere and ratchets up the suspense in the kill scenes, especially in the second half of the movie. Now, of course, I didn't realize it at first, but the score was actually done by the same guy, and his name is escaping me. Shoot. Why can't I think of his name, guys? Harry Manfredini, that's who it is. All of a sudden it popped in my head. And of course, he did Friday the 13th and some of the sequels. This score also has very much a Psycho vibe going on to it. It kind of borrows from Psycho, just like Friday the 13th does by Harry Manfredini. And so that's definitely one of the best parts of this movie, that they had Harry Manfredini doing the score for this movie, and that really adds to those creepy moments and the suspense of the movie, the nighttime scenes. I thought the score was definitely one of the biggest highlights of this movie for sure because of Harry Manfredini's involvement. I also really liked the sequence towards the end where the children are sort of starting to surround the Fremont house that the sheriff is in, as well as, of course, the husband and wife, the Fremont family. They also have a little boy upstairs that really plays into the horror of it. I thought that whole part was very effective in the latter half of the movie. And then it comes down to the fact that these adults have to defend themselves against these children. And it felt the most suspenseful and creepy sequence of the whole movie as well. Again, because there's also a young child who's younger than school age, and there's kind of a heartbreaking scene, actually, that kind of, I'm not going to say it got to me, like I got emotional or anything, but I really felt bad for this kid and his parents, because he's just, the younger a kid in a horror movie, the more innocent they are, and it just kind of, it just kind of it has an effect. I think that this movie plays on pretty well when you see what happens to this kid. So that whole sequence in the latter half of the movie I thought was very effective from both a horror and sort of an emotional grounding standpoint as well. Um, I have to say, it took me after the movie thinking about it, but there is a pretty nice twist at the very end of this movie. The twist itself isn't great because there's a major flaw with it, which I'll get into in my cons here. But they do a really good job of setting up this twist. That if you really watch the movie and you really think about it, it does make sense why we get this final twist. And this is, of course, the last shot of the movie, basically. But something happens at the beginning of this movie that we kind of forget about because of everything else that happens throughout this movie, to where it rears its head at the very end of the movie. And again, the twist is a better setup twist than an actual great twist in itself, if that makes sense. But the movie does a really good job of sort of bringing it home and setting that twist up to where it's at least somewhat effective at the end, even though it doesn't totally work, as I said. I'll get into that with my cons. Overall, just the thing I can say about this movie, it's not great. It is a B horror movie, but it's overall just a fun and cheesy B horror movie that I had a really fun and had a really good time with. So those are my pros for The Children from 1980. Getting into my cons, nothing about this movie makes any sense. It's really bizarre and weird. Nothing's ever really explained, like, why yellow smoke? I mean, why yellow smoke that turns children into zombie-like creatures? Why doesn't this fog or this smoke turn adults into zombies? Why they can microwave people when they hug them or touch them? And why the black fingernails? There's just so many things that aren't explained. And again, it basically is, like I said in my other review, shut up and watch the movie and stop asking questions. At the end of the day, that's really what it is. You just kind of have to go with it. It's another one of these 80s cheesy horror movies that doesn't make any sense, and we don't necessarily need a lot of exposition or reasons. You just kind of have to go with it and believe it's the way it is. So that's one thing, though, that people might question, like, why this, why that? Shut up. That's basically what the movie's telling you. Just go with it. The acting is pretty uneven, not only by a couple of the kids, one who looks directly into the camera as they're smiling, and I can't believe they didn't edit or cut that out, but it takes you out of the moment for sure. But some of the adults as well, like the two rednecks and even the deputy, I didn't think the acting was great. Of course, you don't have top-notch names in the movie by any means, or top-notch performances. The only exception is I thought Martin Shakir as John Fremont and Gil Rogers as the sheriff, who of course are the two main characters, I thought they were pretty serviceable for this kind of movie especially. I will say too, there's a lot of kind of pointless characters that are introduced early in the movie, and it doesn't really go anywhere with them. It kind of makes you question what was the point of that kind of thing. So yeah, that's another con. The print of the movie isn't great. Now, this is the best version of it, is my understanding. Vinegar Syndrome is one of the best companies when it comes to cleaning up older movies. But even with that, they couldn't completely get out all of the cigarette burns and the sort of the specks in the corner that you can see, like they used to have when they used to change out reels back in the day. You do have a little bit of that in this movie at certain scenes. It's not the whole movie, but there's just certain scenes where they're transitioning where you can see some of that stuff that still comes through. And it seemed kind of weird to me, too, that the sheriff and the parents weren't more worried at the beginning, where you have a school bus of the children left their books and their bags and everything behind, and there's nobody in sight. They don't seem all that overly concerned about it until halfway through the movie when when bodies start turning up being microwaved and stuff. I thought that was a little bit weird that there wasn't a bit more concern, if not panic, on some of these parents and even the sheriff's part. They try to downplay it and say it's no big deal. It's like, there's 5 children that are missing in your small community, and they left their bags and everything behind on the bus. I would be a little bit more concerned about that. And then getting back to the twist, my final con is the one big flaw with this twist. Well, it's set up really well, and it has, how can I put it without spoiling it? It has the black fingernails. but the microwaving's not happening when we get the reaction from one of our main characters as to the horror of it. That's about the best I can say about it, and that's I'm not sure why this person's not being microwaved. Is it's literally touching another person, and it's got the black fingernails to make us believe that this is an infected zombie child. But so that part just doesn't completely work on that part of the twist. But again, it's one of these cheesy early 80s B horror movies you just kind of have to go with and not be so concerned about having questions being answered. And from that standpoint, as I said before, it's a fun, entertaining, not great horror movie from the early 80s. I'm going to give this movie a 7.5 out of 10 for the children from 1980. I thought there was a lot of effectiveness in it for being a lower budget B horror movie. And I had some fun with it, and it worked for me overall. So 7.5 out of 10 for the children from 1980. Go ahead and comment down below what you guys think of this movie. If you've seen it, do you like it more or less? Why not? Please like this video, hit the little notification bell, and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of my upcoming reviews for this last month of part 1 of this overall 1980s horror series. And so you don't miss any of my other great horror content starting in August and through the rest of the year that I have for you. So with that being said, I hope everybody's doing well. I hope you're enjoying this review series. And as always, stay scared. Bye.